Well, Leafs fans, welcome back to another early episode of Game Over. That's right. We're here on American Thanksgiving. And can I just say, first of all, I'm thankful for all of you guys here live with us. I'm thankful to be here with my bud Fouad. You know what I'm not thankful
Yo,
for though? What you know what I'm not thankful for?
what is that?
That final damn scoreline in a game that the Leafs were controlling through and through. They weren't able to close off the game. How
Yeah.
disappointing, right?
Yeah, it's first of all, thankful to be back. I haven't watched a Leafs game, swear, in 2 weeks because last one I did was that Vancouver game because every in Sweden I had something to do both days I was working. So there's so many headlines, there's so much things are changing. Like
Mm-hmm.
Patrick
Mm-hmm.
Kane's gonna be a Leaf, Chris Tanev's gonna be a Leaf, John Klingberg is gone. So I'm happy to be back watching this game. But you know what hasn't changed? The bad habits,
Yeah.
the little mistakes that become big calamities
Mm-hmm.
on display in this game. And this game was fun though. It was a great game, but I mean,
Just
if you
unable
like,
to get the W at the end, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was comedy of errors.
Exactly. Yeah, like the Leafs. So just to give a little bit of backstory, right? They took on the Chicago Blackhawks, who are on a five-game losing skid, right? They're dealing with two huge losses of Taylor Hall. He was ruled out for the whole season with a knee surgery, and
Yeah,
obviously the
big,
terror of all
big
Leafs
blow.
fans, Mr. Corey Perry, the guy who brings nightmares to all fans. He missed practice and he wasn't even on the line today. He was a healthy scratch. Could he be on the trading block? I don't know. But in a game that the Leafs controlled through and throughout, we've got the return of Connor Timmins. Klingberg, like you mentioned, he's been put on LTR. There's a lot to talk about, but we have to talk about the game. And I think like the way we got to start off with that first period because we started so hot. I'm not sure if you caught like the first like 2 minutes. We had like six shots on goal. That second line, JT, Willie, Bird, just absolute studs. They had so many great chances, but they weren't able to get it past Soderblom, right? And this is a guy who's 1-8 coming into this game. His only win, you know who his only win is against?
No, I don't.
The Leafs.
Ah!
Yes, exactly.
That, I should have known. Yeah, I haven't followed the Blackhawks very closely. I thought, I'm like, is this guy really good, or is he just like he looked pretty good? I'm like, is Soderblom actually like a guy? I'm like, no, he's just playing the Leafs. So
Yeah, we'll talk about other guys that we didn't know were good and ends up being absolute studs. Dickinson, you'll hear
uh,
that name quite a bit. We'll get into each of those goals because goddamn was he is he a thorn in our ass. But yeah, like right after the huge flurries that we had in front, it was the Leafs who scored first, right? Nick Robertson, a beauty pass by Domi, right? To Robertson who's on a rush and catches Soderblom. Um, Soderblom was just unable to move across the ice fast enough, and the Leafs they score fast, they score early, and they put themselves into a lead to start the game. This is a common trend. I feel like the last couple of games, the Leafs have found a way to score early, but I mean, less than a minute after that goal, it's Dickinson who ties the game up, right?
right back.
Exactly, just right away, less than a minute later, and it was a goal that Samsonov should have had. Like
Oh my.
I couldn't believe it. How did he flub something like that? Like the shot that Dickinson took, it really didn't even seem like he was trying to score it. It seemed
No,
like
he's
he
just
just
trying to
shot it. Yeah, it just seemed
just
like he
trying
was
to
just
get he's
shooting
just
it
trying to
just
get
to get off the
possession. He's
pass.
just getting a face off. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to get off the pads, maybe get a rebound or something. But Samsonov like was just unable to cover up his post. And for a guy who's, I know he's had two wins in a row in his last couple of starts, but he hasn't looked that great. What were your thoughts on that goal? Like,
Yeah. I mean, he's had Samsonov. Obviously, this has not been his best season. Obviously, losing the net or losing at least the top goalie spot obviously hasn't been the best year for him. But man, like sometimes he lets in like Jack Campbell like goals, and I hate to say that, but like it's rough, man. Like I mean, he's kind of showing why he's the backup now, and Yeah. When you have stuff like that, when you get a goal like that goes in, it's kind of a really bad precedent.
Yeah.
And it is kind of concerning for like, look, if you're going to go into the playoffs, they might want to have a third guy in the chamber somewhere because, you know, let's just say that's ceramic, not wood, but let's just say, you know, like if you have Joseph Woll go down or anything or falter in the playoffs, he's gonna be the guy. He's back in the net, and who knows what's gonna happen, right? I mean, goaltending is the most unpredictable position in all of sports.
Mm-hmm.
You stuff like that. I'm like, man, he's gonna like in a tight series. Like, there's a lot of things here that could lose in this game that could lose a series. Those type of goals could kill the Leafs momentum wise for sure. I mean, and he had a couple of. I mean, the overtime goal was just stupid luck, but the tying the second goal was pretty rough too. I mean, we'll get to that. The second Chicago Blackhawks goal, he kind of lost his post. Like again, he lost the post twice. Like he didn't know where he was until it was in the back of the net. Like that was a weird. That wasn't a very like heads up play. Like,
it was weird. We'll get to that. We'll get to that because there's a lot to talk about for that too. But to finish off that first period, I mean, right after that goal went in, Robertson had another breakaway attempt. That third line, first of all, that third line looked really good today for us. Yeah, they were looking amazing. Matthews and Marner's, they got breakaway on the next line shift. They even forced a penalty kill on the side of the Blackhawks, right? As Seth Jones was making a desperation play to attempt to freeze up Marner from a pass from Matthews. He ends up hooking him. Unfortunately, the Leafs don't like do anything on the power play. But the worst way to end off the period, they take a penalty kill, or they take a too many men on the ice power play.
Oh yeah,
it's insane because you know I was looking up on this. This is their 7th too many on the ice penalty in the season.
Wow,
that's the most in the league.
That's the most in the league. And who's the second?
Games. I have no clue, but 7? Are you kidding me? 18 games in the season, and it was just like stupid plays where you're just not using your brain enough, right? Thank God they don't score on us, but you end off the period on a penalty kill, and then you start the second period on a penalty kill as well. It's just
those between periods things, they kill you,
right? Exactly.
Like you've been there, Achilles heel. Can I say on that, but like just on a bigger picture note about those too many men penalties, like, look, I could understand, like, I'm always thinking about, like, what would happen in the playoff, like, situations in the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, imagine, like, okay, look, you take a penalty in the playoffs, and, like, okay, a guy gets tripped. I can live with that. And if like, you get scored on in a power play goal and lose the game, that sucks.
Yeah.
You can live with that because that was in the game. Like, that was something, like, you had to do that. Just was the flow of the game. Could you, like, imagining them taking a too many men on the ice penalty in the playoffs and losing as a result? Because if that happens in the playoffs, they're calling that as an objective call. The refs can always swallow their whistles when guys get slashed or head slammed on the ice, as we saw, but they're not going to swallow their whistles with that. They will gladly go to center ice and say too many men. They love that. So they have to clean that up now, because my Leaf PTSD brain is saying that's gonna happen in the playoffs.
No, that's a great point, actually. Like that's completely self-inflicted. There's no reason to be taking those, and that's something that keeps, as you said, that he has to start fixing that up. He has to create some kind of accountability for these guys, because
bell ding, 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 ding.
100%, yeah. Like it's ridiculous the way that's happening, but all in all, that period, I mean, we had 15 shots on goal to their 6, right?
Yeah.
Realistically, I feel like we could have been up like 3 or 4 to end that first period itself, right? And instead, it's a 1-1 game, and they're right in it, right? And that's going to be a common trend, as you see throughout the rest of the game as well. You can't give any team in the league an inch, right? This is the National Hockey League. It's the greatest players in the world, and each team has a chance to get something going. You can't just let them give an inch, because they'll take a mile from you.
Yeah, like I mean, the Blackhawks aren't exactly the worst. Like they're not the worst roster in the league. Like there is something there.
Oh yeah, when you have
Like they're not a good
Bedard,
team.
like
Yeah, but there's some there is something. I mean, it's Bedard, yeah, but there's like again, like even the Sharks, if they played like that against the Sharks, they probably would have lost.
yeah,
To be honest, like that's the thing. You give away these in these critical moments, like bad goaltending, and then like I think the third goal. I mean, we talked about the second goal being really bad on Samsonov's part, but the third goal started the third period. How do you? That's how you set the tone for your third period. Like
yeah. Starting,
2 seconds in.
you got to start them on time, and it's
But
just yeah.
yeah, and then you had the Jake and Jake McCabe. My goodness, he did not have a great game. Like, he had some plays where I was like, "What are you doing?" Just throws it in front of the net to Matthews. I know he's Austin Matthews, but he's still in front of your own net. Like he's like that's not good. I'd rather ice the puck. Don't pass it to Matthews in front of the net. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Like that was not Samsonov's fault. That was a clean look for Jason Dickinson, apparently the franchise player of the Chicago Blackhawks, the guy we all came to see in this game.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. A guy who I didn't even know who he was before this game. But anyways, to start off the second period, right? The Leafs, they come out hot, right? So they're like I said, they were on a penalty kill, but right away they get their own penalty, a power play from a Tyler Johnson trip in, right? And right off of that, it's a 4 minute or a minute and 18 seconds for a 4-on-4, and Yarncroc is the one who buries it off of a beautiful pass by TJ Brody. What'd you think about that pass? Because oh my god, that was insane, right?
I thought I was trying to look at the replay. I guess I missed the replay, but I thought for a second that he just bounced it off the Chicago defender. That's the first initial thing, that it was just like TJ Brody just like this pass went errant and went in off a Chicago player. But man, he's got the mitts. I mean, are we looking at are we looking at a Norris Trophy winning defenseman here? Yeah, is this Quinn Hughes there? Is that TJ Brody? No, I'm just kidding. No, it's a great play. I mean, the third line, to go back to your point before, like the third line's been cooking.
Oh yeah,
like I love that third line. And that's I mean, this game has a lot of negatives, but you want to talk a positive, and it's the secondary scoring. It's the top three line, all three lines kind of working. Even the fourth line was pretty gritty. They got a goal too.
We'll get into that. And I think it's a lot of that has to do with Nick Robertson being thrown into the lineup. I think he's absolutely he completely transforms this line, and finally, like you said, we have some kind of scoring in the bottom half of our forward group. And you talk about that fourth line, Ryan Reeves gets his first goal as a Leaf. How crazy is that? This guy's been out for what, like 2 weeks now, basically 3 games, but because of the road trip, it's there's been an extended time he's been out for. And yeah, like he gets his first goal as a Leaf, and the passion that we saw from him and the bench. I mean, the bench were absolutely stoked to see him finally get one, right? And that just goes to show how much the team really rallies behind him, and they're really looking out for their own guys, right?
I feel bad when people I feel bad when people crap on Reeves, because like I get it, he's not good, like he's not a great player, obviously minus all the time.
I think he was like minus like 11 or 6 or something crazy coming into this game.
Like it, but he's such a great dude. As far as like, I wish he was a great player, because I love his personality. I wish he was like at least like a top 4 defenseman. I wish he had the game of somebody who was actually really good, because I love his personality. Guy plays with passion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he doesn't play well, but he plays with passion, and you can see obviously has an effect on the guys. I mean, he brings the vibes, and I thought for sure Ryan Reeves scores that goal, I'm like, they're not losing this game.
100%, yeah.
Stupid me to think that. But you saw them jump up and down like that goes right to the legs normally for a normal team. Not the Leafs, but for a normal team.
Yeah, exactly. And even on the broadcast, they were mentioning like, hey, you guys are up 3-1. You guys controlled the first period. You guys are doing really, really well to start off the second period. Let's get this game wrapped up in 10 minutes. Just don't let any more goals go, and try to control the play a little bit more. Play how you have been playing. But instead, again, Dickinson, you talked about that second goal. Samsonov absolutely loses track of the puck behind his net. Lagesson, I will say, like they was a little bit unlucky. Lagesson, he comes in to help Timmins, but unfortunately he leads with a stick. It takes an unlucky poke bounce out to Dickinson, and he's just able to score it. But like you were saying, like Samsonov just did not track that puck. Like he didn't know where the puck
No.
was at all, right? So I feel like it was a little self-inflicted as well. Like you can't totally uh let Samsonov off the hook on that, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, like I mean, I haven't been really impressed with him. Again, he's a backup goaltender, so at this point, he's your second option. He's not the guy you're going to go to come game one of the playoffs. That's not the guy that you would go to if it started today.
Yeah.
Obviously, circumstances, injuries, and everything changes. But yeah, he's not like, and honestly, like, and I don't want to rag on the guy. I mean, he can have some good weeks. Like that's the thing, goaltending, he can turn it on. Like it wouldn't surprise me if he takes the net in the playoffs or if he takes the net at some point. Like it's so weird. But as of now, I think it was a really tidy piece of business that the Leafs didn't give him a long-term contract.
Yeah.
This offseason, like they gave him that qualifying offer and said, okay, show it to us again. And at this point, like the way they're structured, probably his last season in Toronto, most likely, in my opinion, just because of the way that they got to pay, they got to feed some other guys. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, he's not the best. I have confidence he can at least be a functional backup. Like I don't think I said Jack Campbell goals. I don't think he's quite at the Jack Campbell level yet. I hate to rip on Jack Campbell. He's a great guy, but you know.
Yeah, but you never really know how the season can turn out, right? We're still in game 18. And if you look back at last season, right? How many times did the starting goaltender position flip-flop between Murray and Samsonov, right? So there's
Yeah.
always a chance that Samsonov can catch lightning in a bottle. Maybe he can get on a little bit of a streak. And honestly, I feel like we kind of need that, right? I don't expect, or I don't want to have that much of a burden or put that much pressure on Wall to be the number one guy. I want to have some kind of safety net behind him, in case, yeah, like let's say someone gets injured. Let's say if Wall goes on a little bit of a cold streak, you got to have someone back there to try to back him up,
Yeah.
right? And as of right now, Samsonov is just really shaky, and I think it's a lot to do with just his positioning. Like he seems really frantic. He seems like he's not tracking pucks well. It seems like he's just not able to read the play as well as he did last season, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with anything in life, anything you do, it's always like as somebody who is a frantic personality. Like I am someone who does things. It's an ADHD thing. I'm fast and I'm do things before I even realize what I'm doing. It's always good. Everything you do, when you do something in a calm way and you slow down, it's always good to just be slow, just track the net. That's why I always like about Joseph Woll. Whenever I see Joseph Woll in net, guys just like he's always calm. He kind of anticipates things happening before they happen.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, yeah, look, you need three goalies sometimes. Like, you know, we look at the playoffs this year. Look at the two teams that made it. The two teams that made it, Florida played two goalies, right? They played two guys. The Vegas Golden Knights, were they on their third goalie? Was that the one who won, right? Like Aiden Hill was the third goalie, right?
Yeah.
So the days of like, I think the days of like, I mean, it's very few and far between you get like a Vasilevsky or like those are the exception, not the rule, where you have like this one solid rock of a goaltender that's just going to be dependable the whole time. I think you kind of just roll with what you got. Goaltending is kind of like throwing crap at the wall and seeing what sticks. So, you know, let's just hope he starts to stick a little bit more.
Exactly. What was unfortunate for the Leafs though in this moment was, to be honest, like right before this Dickinson goal, we kind of had a couple great chances before this, right? I mean, Willie had an insane chance. Riley jumping up on the play, he had another chance. But despite controlling the game, where like I said, we could have been up like 4-1, like 5-1 at this point. It's a 3-2 game, right? And right after that goal, the Blackhawks were on our ass. Like the last 2 minutes of that period, oh my god, they were just sustained ozone pressure. They had like 5 or 6 shots on goal. Basically half of their shots on goal in that period happened in like the last 2 minutes of the game.
They were buzzing. And you know what? Credit to the United. I mean, they had so much energy. They looked like, I don't know if they look good or the Leafs look really bad, But you know what?
That's a
Credit to
young
that
roster.
United Center crowd. Like the Chicago, they come out and they come out loud like that. Like you could hear
Oh yeah.
every moment sounded like it was like in the playoffs. Like every pushing and shoving match, it was like you were watching a fight in Vegas. Like it was something. Like that's a good American crowd right there.
Yeah,
You
did
know,
you
I'm sure
hear
that's a
that
good
the Leafs
song we heard.
chants? Did you
What's
hear
that?
the Leafs chants that started going off, and then as soon as it started, the Chicago
Ooh.
fans were just booing right away. That was
That happened in
hilarious.
I went to a sports we led a sports tour for Jays games in Boston.
Uh,
And there was a lot of us there. So we were like, let's go Blue Jays. And people were pissed. It was like it was a fight in the stands. But yeah, I like that. I mean, good on the Chicago fans there that kind of took back the energy from the building there.
yeah, exactly. Well, let's go into the third period because yeah, this is where Dickinson just absolutely destroyed us. He gets his first hat trick of his career 15 seconds into that period. Just like what a way to start the period. And for a
Batting the
guy,
hats out of the way.
yeah, exactly, it was insane. And for a guy who hasn't even been in like or hasn't had like a double digit in terms of goals in a regular season, he entered the game today with 3 goals and 17. Now he doubles it to end the game.
50% of his season's goals against the Leafs. Like, if that's not the most Leafs thing you could think of, like he had half of his goals. How many games we played so far? What, 18?
18 games. Half of them
track.
happened in this one game.
That's funny. Like you gotta laugh. Like I can't even. How can you even be mad at that? Like how can you even be mad as a fan? That's just funny.
Yeah, I mean it's sad. I feel horrible.
God.
Why does this keep happening to our team?
It's you have to account for it. It's always gonna happen. Like it's always anytime somebody's gonna have the game of their life who shouldn't have the game of their life, or somebody who used to play for the Leafs is gonna kick their ass. So it was either a Mrazek shutout, a Joey Anderson hat trick, or a Jason Dickinson just becoming a superstar. So I'll take the Jason Dickinson one. I think that one's a little better of a story.
And isn't it crazy that it was Jason Dickinson? Like if I were to tell you someone scored a hat trick in this game, like the first name that you think of is Bedard, right? And
he was buzzing. He was flying too.
yeah, well, I mean, he only had like I think it was like 2 or 3 shots on goal to in this game. I can't. I think it was 2 right before OT. I'm not sure if it went up by a couple, but he was pretty much restricted this entire game. And then like you have another guy who steps up and scores and gets something going. Right? It was just tough to see. And with 10 minutes left in that third period, did you see Samsonov almost getting caught not tending his net?
Boys.
Exactly.
Too. He like literally did this. I mean, we'll get to overtime, but he literally did this. Like he's feeding the ducks he's feeding ducks, the old man at the river.
Can you imagine if that resulted in a goal? How insane would Steve Steve would lose his mind.
I feel bad. I'm glad it didn't, because that would be really tough for the guy. That would actually be like that would be that would be a Jake Gardner type moment to where it's like where it's like, I don't know if you get your confidence back from that. Like we've seen some stuff like that where it's had real material effect, but yeah. What did you think? I actually thought a positive in the third period was the pushback. Like I like the way they were getting in their face on every play. Like Noah Gregor coming in and off the top rope there. And I mean, they take a penalty, but you kill it. Like I would rather see them do that. I like the physicality. I like the intensity they play with. They lost, but I'd like to see them carry that same intensity. I think everybody would agree. I think every Leafs fan was like,
oh yeah,
sticking in my veins.
100%. And like to give context on that PK, right? That penalty that we took, the rough-in penalty that Gregor took. Honestly, it was totally justified. Like I hold no ill will towards Gregor. I don't blame him for doing that at all. Kachuk was the one who was being a dickhead. He shot the puck into the net of Samsonov after the whistle gets called. Do that. If you wanna throw Gregor out for rough-in, I mean, why not throw Kachuk out for unsportsmanlike conduct, right? I mean, it was just uncalled for shithousery, and like, are you just gonna ignore the fact that he shot it in the net after the whistle? What's going on here?
That's like an unwritten hockey rule. Like I don't think that's like even an actual, like there's never been an unsportsmanlike penalty, has it been? Because like even in the video games, like in NHL, anytime you shoot the puck in the NHL, like the computer will just come and 10 guys will come after you. You're like, I'm like,
I mean,
what did I do?
exactly.
What did I
But
do?
I understand that, but I'm like, if you're, that's why I mean, like, Gregor like roughing him up or whatever is totally justifiable in that case. Like, if you're throwing Gregor out for that, then also throw out Kachuk. I don't think either of them should have been thrown out for something like that, to be honest.
Nah,
Right?
yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, maybe a 4-on-4. Like I mean, then again, what do you give him a penalty for? Shooting the puck? I don't know.
Yeah,
Like it's not exactly an unsportsmanlike because he didn't do anything like bad. Like he didn't give him like the DX like chop or something like that. He didn't give him the finger or nothing like that. Like, so I guess it's a tough spot. But again, the point taken. I love the pushback from everyone there. Not Ryan Reeves. Like, I mean, like if you're waiting for Ryan Reeves to be the one to give you pushback, then you're kind of screwed. Because that's not enough toughness. You can't have toughness for 5 minutes that he plays. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. And you talk about a little bit of toughness, a little bit of pushback. What about that line brawl that happened as well?
Cameron
The game just wasn't chippy at all. There was no physicality going like up until this point, and then all of a sudden I see like Seth Jones, Ryan Reeves going at it. Laguson's like on top of someone. Like there was like 3 fights going on at the same time. Like, what just happened? What just ignited this?
Laguson, Laguson's a tough guy, man. I mean,
Oh, he's a big boy too.
I can't say much about like his actual like play, like his actual like skills and play, but he's huge and he's always in the mix there. Like I think he's got a permanent place. I think as like the 6th or 7th defenseman. Like I think you keep him there. I think he's really valuable in just keeping some sandpaper in there because he's really always kind of in the mix, kind of like pushing and shoving. He's a tough guy, right? Like you kind of need a little bit of that somewhere in the lineup. Like sometimes I'd rather him than Giordano in a lineup, if depending on what you need. Because I mean, Giordano's going to be in there.
Gio's throwing some hands too.
Well, Giordano's like, yeah, he's the oldest man to have been in a fight. Like he's. Yeah. I told you, I was saying to Eddie Lack and Clay, he's like Ric Flair basically. He was the oldest guy wrestling, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really funny though, that entire line brawl. But like right after that, it just seemed like the whole game just became super physical. And yeah, to your point, I love to see it. I love to see that they actually stepped up for that. But yeah, let's get into OT. There was a ton of chances like traded back and forth, right? Both teams had a ton of great chances, but I think the one that we have to talk about is that Nylander breakaway chance. We all thought it was goal. I mean, the broadcast thought it was goal. The graphics went off of the TSN stream, and then it just stayed off for a while. Yeah, the goaltend went off too. But no, Nylander, who thought it was a goal, he after he shot it and like it didn't get called, he was looking at the ref like, "Are you sure? Like, are you sure you looked at it?" And we saw the replay. Dude, it hit the near post, bounced off of the crossbar, and then it hits the opposite post as well and doesn't go in.
Like that's one of those things that like I jumped up. I'm like, point streak's alive. R.I.P. to the point streak. Well, I mean, that's
17
that's
games.
sad.
Yeah.
But
feels
man,
bad.
like I think Mike Johnson was saying on the broadcast, he's like that is more impressive than scoring the goal. There was the way he hit those posts. Like that should count for something. That was an impressive level of bad luck. Like that was. Like you could not do that if you tried 1,000 times, hit the post the way he did. But I mean, credit to that ref for not calling it the goal right away, because like that, my eyes I guess he's right there so we could see it, but that was quick.
That was very quick.
It looked like a goal just by the physics of it.
Yeah,
like that. No, I don't credit officials here very often. There's a pretty good no call there.
Yeah, definitely. The thing that sucks though is the Blackhawks. Right afterwards, like there's 30 seconds left in OT, and of course an absolute trash shot too, to be honest. Like the puck just bounced off the back of the boards on top of the net and on Sammy's net, bounces off right in front of Korchinski, and then he buries it. Of all the shots that Sammy was blocking, and just like he looked pretty good in that OT, honestly.
He turned it around.
He had that one little flib like you were talking about, with that turnover, yeah, 100%. But other than that, like I mean, he got a ton of good saves, and that's the goal that went past him.
That's the game, man. That's
it kind of just sums up the game for us, right?
And why we hate it. But yeah, it's a game of inches, man. Like you don't get into overtime with the Blackhawks. That's the thing. You could say it's bad luck, but like bad luck, good luck favors the prepared, right? That was not probably the expression I was
Don't
going
worry, don't worry.
for.
It sounds good. Sounds
You know
good.
what I mean? It
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
wise, right? But like the fact that you're in the overtime, and that was a banger of an overtime. Like I
Oh
was
yeah.
almost relieved. Is it bad as a Leafs fan? I was almost relieved it didn't go to the shootout, just because like I hate that it would end that way. It's like here's the most fun thing you're gonna see all day, and now we're taking it away from you right now. But
Yeah.
it was a fantastic overtime. But yeah, that's the thing. You get yourself into a position where you're like literally have your foot on the neck on one of the worst teams in the league, a team that is actively built to be the worst team in the league, it's tanking, and you just keep letting them back in, let them back in a little bit, let back in a little bit, and it snowballs. All those mistakes snowball, right? And because all of a sudden you're in overtime and you're at the mercy of Lady Luck, the weird boards and turnovers. That's the thing. You know, you make your own luck in the NHL.
Yeah, exactly. It was just really unfortunate. Um, yeah, what a weird game though. A game that we controlled through and throughout, and just blips here and there. Dickinson, he's able to get some timely goals, I guess, for the Blackhawks, and yeah, just a game that we should be winning. And it just sucks that it's against the Blackhawks, a team that's clearly not doing too well. I mean, this is their sixth win of the season. Two of
Yeah,
those six wins have been off of the Leafs. Um,
33%.
yeah, and you throw this out there like, oh, it was just really, really, really sad. But yeah, I mean, did you have any more thoughts about the game, or should we talk about some of the other big stories that there are?
Yeah, well, and I was thinking this too. Blake Stoner makes a good observation here.
Uh-huh.
If it goes on top of the net, the whistle should go. So technically, it shouldn't have counted. Now, I was listening to the broadcast to see if they were going to mention that. So maybe I don't know. That's a good point. Maybe it's because it didn't land and like maybe it wasn't dead. Is that what do you think? It's in somebody, maybe somebody in the chat can help you. But maybe because it didn't die on the top of the net, that's why it was still in play, because it just bounced off, right? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta look at the rule book. I'm not sure of the rules off the top of my head exactly
No
for
one's
the
sure of
word
it.
in. Yeah, the word in is key with everything with the NHL, to be honest. But yeah, I have a feeling it's because it didn't, like you said, drop dead. If it did drop dead and then gets bounced off or whatever, maybe someone hits it off, then it would get whistled out. But yeah, I'm not
That will
sure.
make sense.
Yeah, I hope
That
someone
will
in the
make sense.
comments does some research, looks at the rule book, and tells us what's going on with that one.
They will.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So that rule actually makes that would actually be the right rule. Like if I would agree with that being a rule, like to where like it can't just die if it touches the top of the net. It has to be like 2 seconds on the net. Okay, dead puck, or else you're just taking away scoring chances that don't benefit the Leafs. So maybe they should change it. Oh my goodness. So you said a lot of stories. Where are we gonna start? So the one I keep seeing
Uh-huh.
again, I felt like this is a new season. I feel like this has been the off season for me. Now they played in Chicago, so there's been a hot debate about a free agent that was a good player for Chicago named Patrick Kane. Talking to all these teams, he's on a world tour. He's training in Toronto, and I gotta say, this my view is. Look, I'm okay. I'd be okay with it if they brought him on, because listen, if it's for like $700,000, who cares? Because you try him up in the
He's
top
not getting
line.
700,000. He's
The
getting
word,
way
yeah,
more
than
than
that. If
that.
it's a minimum contract, maybe if it's $1 million.
Yeah, but nobody, he's not getting a miss.
Man, I mean, a lot of injuries. He's older. Like a lot of teams don't have the space right now. So if he did, let's just say he takes it. I like it.
I mean, any
it.
team
Like,
though in the
worst case
league would
scenario,
like
he's
it.
Joe Thornton.
Yeah,
You just put him on the fourth line.
any team would like a Patrick Kane for league man, but you're realistically not going to get that. I also don't think that he really shores up anything, or he's not what we need, to be honest.
No.
What we need is defense, and yeah, like by far. I mean, I'm looking more so at like the Tanevs, the Zadorovs, looking at those kind of guys to see if we can fill up or round up our defense, especially because we got some news today. John Klingberg, he's officially been put on LTIR.
Shame.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about what exactly happened. We'll talk about the player side, and then we'll go into the Leafs perspective or their side of it. So
Yeah.
Klingberg, he
Good.
stated that he was dealing with a bad hip his entire career, right?
That's rough.
Yeah, exactly. And reports have come out. They were saying that even when he's walking, you can see him struggling and whatnot. Like he's clearly hurt. Um, but it's just weird that this seemingly like happened like overnight. Like it seemed like 1 week he's playing like normal. And then the next we see him go on LTIR. And not only that, like they're saying that this could be a career ending injury. Like it's that bad, right? And from a player's perspective, that's really sad to see. You never want to see anyone have a career threatening injury, especially someone who's really not that old. Like I look back, he's only 31 years old. He's playing
31?
for he's 31. He's playing for a contract season, right? This is last season on his contract.
Yeah.
And it's just really tough. Whatever you think, whatever feelings you have about him as a player, what he's produced for the Leafs or whatnot. I mean, I think all of us as just regular humans can understand and feel bad for the guy. And you never want to see something like that happen, right?
Yeah.
Maybe,
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead. You finish.
Yeah, I was saying maybe he can like hopefully recover, sign a league min next season, and then play for another contract. But yeah, you never know with these kinds of things, right?
Yeah, I mean, okay. So first and foremost, the salary cap does weird things to people's brains, like because yes, everything you're saying, and like it kind of does weird. Like that's the thing; it makes us weird people because that's a terrible injury. It's a hip. You hear a hip, and you hear somebody in the 30s. It's like okay,
It's tough.
that might be curtains for the career because of just like the miles and like you. There's a reason. It kind of explains why he was. If it was really starting to act up, it explains why he was having a tough time on the ice. Like if your hip hurts, how are you moving? How are you moving laterally? How are you going to catch up with the best forwards in the league? There's a reason why he's giving the puck away. Like it's all connected. But it's so weird that like now people are like he's on LTIR. It's like, so how does that benefit the Leafs? It's like it makes people kind of morbid. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know, man. Like that's one thing I hate about the NHL cap structure, that it's so restrictive that like you can't even be like, that sucks, man. Hope for the best. Hopefully his hip recovers so we can walk normally. It's like, it makes people weird. I don't like that. That's one thing I hate about the cap system. It makes it weird, you know?
Yeah, exactly. What was that? What was that meme? The something island. I can't remember.
Robida.
Robida Island, that's what it was. Dude, the amount of tweets, the amount of conversations about Robida Island, I was like, God damn it, dude. You know the guy's injured. He's
Gonna get hip
clearly
surgery,
feeling it.
maybe. Like that's not funny. Like it's not good.
Yeah,
Like, that's serious stuff, man. It makes us telling you, it messes up our brain, makes us really makes fans morbid, you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's just sad to see. But let's switch gears into the Leafs perspective, right? Because yeah, like you said, I mean, it sucks, but it kind of does work out well for the Leafs and especially Treliving. Treliving honestly should be like considering himself lucky essentially that he gets another chance here, right? Klingberg's a guy that he signed this offseason that clearly just has not worked out. The
No.
Leafs fans absolutely hated him, seeing him on the ice these last couple of games, and he signed for 4 million, right? And at this point, yeah, Treliving has the opportunity to get that cap space back and throw another dart out, and look for some replacements, right?
Yeah, Treliving had a rough offseason. Let's very, very rough. He got Domi. I like the Domi
Bertuzzi.
addition, of course. I like how he handled the Samsonov thing, unless that was Kyle Dubas. I don't remember. But anyway, the contracts he signed on free agency, like at the beginning of free agency, were horrible. It got you spent almost 8 mil on John Klingberg. Why didn't you say like there's no physical? Like you didn't get like the physical on what was going on there. Not John Klingberg's fault at all. You didn't get a physical to see what's going on there. Like, of course, there's some sort of history. He signed David Kampf to like 26, like 2.5 to be on the fourth line.
Mm.
He signed Ryan Reeves, who I love personally, but 1.6 for 3 years. That amounted to like 7.9 mil, to which is, you would say, a good top four defenseman or two good top four defensemen, right? So
Yeah.
he does have a little bit of a reprieve, I would say, but I think now he's going to get that cap room to work with that we're he's obviously gonna go out and get a defenseman, but I hopefully he has a bit more foresight.
Yeah, exactly. But did you really like when Treliving made all those moves, right? In the preseason, don't look at it as we're looking at it right now, I guess, right? When the
Yeah.
moves are made, I actually wasn't too like pissed off about it. I mean, getting Bertuzzi, getting Domi, these guys have finally started clicking. I mean, Bertuzzi
Those
on
were
that
good.
second line looking really good. Domi finally playing his position in center. His line is looking really, really good. But to your point, yeah, the camp signing bad. Klingberg, you could have had other guys exactly. Like Dumba, he could have had him. Like there's a bunch of other guys. But yeah, Treliving has another opportunity here with the 4 million. Who do you think he goes after? Do you think he goes after a defenseman, a forward, like you were saying, Patrick Kane? Do you think add in that X factor of maybe catching lightning in a bottle, maybe like having a resurgence after an
Yeah.
injury? Do you think that's enough, or would you want to go for the safe bet with like a defenseman?
You got, yep, I mean, defenseman, right? Like, I mean, it's, and it's not just going to cost cap space. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, any trade for a defenseman, everybody, that's the thing. The leverage here is that everybody knows what's going on with the Leafs. I mean, it's been the case for eons, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
everyone's going to be like, you want our top 4 defensemen? Well, let's look at that deal you made for Jake Muzzin back in 2019. That's what we want in return. And that was a hefty return. I mean, you needed Jake Muzzin at the time, but man, Dursey, Grunstrup, first round pick, that
Mm-hmm.
might be what teams are demanding here. I mean, if you want, I mean, if wants to go to Calgary and get those 2 guys, Tanev and Zadorov, those guys are pretty good. But I don't know, like, is the Calgary ownership even going to work with this guy? They were petty enough to be like, no, you cannot go work for your team until we're done drafting. You stay there, just in timeout. Like, they were that petty. So are they going to actually do business with this guy? Or are they going to be like 4 first-round picks? Like, NHL DMs are pretty petty. So, but I
Well,
would like some kind of top 4 defenseman, maybe a couple decent ones. But you got to shore it up, though. I mean, you can't go in with Timmins and Lagesson having those real minutes. Like, good players, but
mm-hmm.
like you're kind of nervous if you start the playoffs and you look at the lineup and say, "Oh, Connor Timmins is in the top 4." All right, sounds like a plan.
Yeah, no, exactly. As much as those guys have been doing really well, and Timmins we mentioned making his return after having an amazing preseason. Yeah, you can't put all your trust in new guys. You want to go for uh, some other guys that have different talent sets as well, like Zadorov, Tanev. They're big physical guys that can
Tough as hell.
exactly, and even play on the power play or the penalty kill. Um, so yeah, I mean, it just really you got to shore it up. That's for sure. I think you definitely have to go for a defenseman. To your point about whether Calgary is willing to work with the Leafs, listen, if you're true living, you make it work. Clearly, like I think it was the game over Calgary and Leafs crossover.
Yeah.
They were mentioning that Tanev and Zadorov, these guys are like tree living guys. The guys loved working under tree living. And so ideally, like it would be a good fit where they would love coming to an organization that tree living is at. And in terms of a fit standpoint, like these guys are exactly what we need. In my opinion, I would take Chris Tanev over Zadorov purely because he's a right hand D man. That's I think the biggest takeaway. And obviously he plays big minutes. He can play on
Yeah.
the power play. Um, but yeah, I mean this is like a critical moment for Tree Living. He can't fumble this. He gets a second life, and the ball's in his court now. If Calgary doesn't want to work with you, look out somewhere and try
Someone
to
else.
find someone. Yeah, I mean, there's so many teams in this league. Someone's bound to have a defenseman that could work out for you. That's your job, True Living. You've been brought in here. I understand, like in the preseason, you didn't have a lot of time to get settled in. You kind of got thrown in on a whim. Now that you've had some time, there's no excuses. You find someone and you make this work.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like with this core, like with the way the forwards are playing, like normally I know we're all like, oh, he's not this prospect, not that draft pick. Oh, we can't move that guy. We can't move this. Honestly, YOLO. Like that's what I'm thinking right now. And it's be smart. Like don't trade 6 first-round picks, or don't be like that far ahead, but you have some good prospects in the system. Like, you got to pick one or the other here, but you have these guys, you have this core four locked up, and then it's going to get rearranged when Tavares comes off, but you got Nylander playing at an unbelievable level.
Yeah.
Matthews is playing amazing. Marner, under the radar, pretty amazing. I mean, you got to give these guys a chance, man. You got to give them a chance. They're not going, if you go into the playoffs with that decor, it's not going to happen. And quite honestly, you need it kind of soon, because the Leafs are probably going to make the playoffs, but they're not for sure going to make the play. Like, there is things that could go wrong. Like, you want to shore it up, make sure you're in the dance, make sure you're in a good position, give them a chance. I don't know, find a pick down the line, like 2027. Like, nobody does that in the NHL, right? Like, in the NBA, you see that, like some teams, like the Clippers, they traded a 2030 pick to get James Harden. 2030. They don't give a shit, because they're not even going to be there. They're not going to work there. You think Brad Treliving is going to work there in 2030? But I think that'd be a cool, innovative way to really improve the team. But, that's just me as a fan wanting to just see one before I die,
Yeah. I mean, the ball's in his court. We'll see what he does with it. We're going to get on to our press conference, the live presser. So if you guys have any questions, make sure to throw them down below. And for everyone that is watching live, thank you guys. Make sure you hit the like button. We appreciate you guys coming out to an early game over episode. Fouad, do you want to talk a little bit about the Thanksgiving? What do you guys?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Every podcast is doing this, and I'm getting jealous. Okay, all the sports podcasts are listening to football and basketball and hockey, the ones I'm listening to, they're all get to have this American Thanksgiving and say, here are the things we're thankful for. And I wanted to do that segment. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do that segment, because the rest of the world, they think a lot of the world thinks Canada and the US are the same country. I'll tell you a story. I have citizenship, or papers in Jordan. My dad went to Jordan a while ago to fix up some papers, and he saw my papers and said, born in the United States. And he told the worker and said, hey, my son's born in Canada, not the US. He's like, Canada, America, what's the difference? So that's
no
where
way.
we're at. It's the same thing. Happy Thanksgiving, Canada. So, Harnish, I'm going to let you start. What on the Leafs, or about the Leafs specifically, are you thankful for?
So you're talking about as a Leafs perspective, like a fan perspective? What am I?
Yeah, as a team fan, everything like that. I know you're thankful to work for Game Over, and you love the fans, but as a Leafs roster, anything around that, let me hear it.
I mean, it's very easy to point out certain players. I think the easy ones would be thankful for Matthews, Nylander, Marner, all those guys. But I think the biggest thing is just being thankful of the Leafs as an organization in and of itself. I think the Leafs, the organization and Leafs in general have been such an important part of my life for so long now. It's a huge part of the reason why I made a lot of friends around the Leafs. Obviously Armand is a big Leafs fan. We connected through that. It's a huge pastime. I love watching the games. It just brings me so much happiness. I know we can get frustrated with the organizations from time to time, but I gotta give my thanks just to the Leafs organization itself, just for existing and giving us so much good entertainment, and the last couple of years giving us some good playoff hockey for the first time in a long time, right? What about you?
Yeah, to your point, first of all, that was a lot more sentimental than I was going to go with. So you probably should have saved that one for your better one for last. But to your point though, the playoffs, I was actually thinking that I'm going to get to mine, but the playoffs are not guaranteed. And once you're in the playoffs, you have a chance. But you look at when your neighbors have a little less, our neighbors in Alberta, in Edmonton, not to throw shots. I like the Oilers, but the Leafs could very well be in that situation, but they're not. They're likely going to make the playoffs. Anyway, I'm thankful for the bottom, the prospects coming up. I'm going to say on this team, mainly Nyes and Robertson. These guys coming in are going to make the whole thing work a lot easier. Okay, because obviously Nylander's going to get paid close to double what he is now. Marner down the line, whenever Tavares comes out the book. But having those guys in the system there, like young guys, cost control guys underneath the like that's going to make the whole thing work a little bit better. Like you're going to be able to, pay some guys a bit more, bring some guys in, but that's the most valuable thing you can have for a team. And this year they finally have that secondary scoring that they were missing. Mm-hmm. And maybe that could be the difference come springtime and down the line, like to keep this whole thing together. Because as much as we sometimes hate on the core, and I do too, you got to keep giving yourself a chance, right? You got to give yourself a chance. And that's what they have right now. Every time you're in the playoffs, no matter how damaged as a fan base we are, always have a chance.
Yeah, exactly. And like piggybacking off that, I mean, another thing, like talking about the youth and bringing up these new prospects or players or whatnot. I mean, you got to give credit to our staff as well, right? Especially the talent development. Like, we during the interview after the second period where Revo was interviewed at talking about that goal and what it meant to him and everything, he talked about that time off that he had. He worked a lot with some of our trainers just to act as like a mini training camp, and he specifically like pointed out Wickenheiser, right? Just spending so much time with him, helping him gear up and just get him ready and working on that. Yeah, you got to give a shout out to those guys. I mean, those guys are working behind the scenes. You don't see them often, but they are integral to the way that the Leafs run and the prospects growing up as well.
All right. Well, that's good. That's a nice positive note that we could bring this, dovetail this all together. Maybe we'll go back to the negative here. What do you, any questions, guys? Like, chat, hit me up. Anything you want to ask, what we're doing, just give me some questions, like scroll through. Anybody got some questions here? Let's see here. This is fantastic content right now. I mean, you see any questions there?
Looks like a lot of people are just pissed off about the D.
Why are you not as pissed off as we are in the chat? Well, I'll tell you why. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, there's some comments about Domi and Marner showing some good playmaking. Like we kind of touched on that, but yeah, Domi being thrown in that center position, I think that's been huge. He's able to play his game really, really well. And yeah, I mean that's kind of shown that third line was a huge reason why the Leafs were kind of in it today. And it's cool that they have a little bit of identity going on over there. A question for you, actually. That fourth line, do you think that the fourth line, they should stick with Revo, or do you think he should still remain as like that, I guess, niche player that you throw out in different,
break glass if you need him.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that you need at certain points. Or do you think do you think that's how we do it?
Yes, I think, okay. I mean, love Reeves, love him as a personality. I'd love to see him in the media. I'd love to interview him. I'd love to have him on the show when he's retired one day. But besides the point, there's so many other guys like in the Marlies like that can just keep that thing going. Like you want 4 lines that can do something. Mm-hmm. You got to have 4 lines that are going in any playoff series. I always think about that because it's all been preparation for that. You got to have 4 lines going. I mean, I know we scored today and like the vibes were good, but still, like let's not forget the 16, 17 games prior to where it was like minus 1,000, right? Like you don't want places that other teams can attack and exploit. Like that's when you're trying to be a champion, you got to have the details, everything. You got to shore up every amount. Like you can get like Alex Steves down there, Bobby McMahon, like any of those guys have a little more skill, can have a better chance of making a play, getting you a timely goal. Like that's what you want. You just can't have any kind of glaring weakness because these teams will scout you to death.
Yeah, exactly. We got a good question in the chat actually right now.
Yes.
So this is from Nick in the chat. He says, what needs to change on the top line to get them going again? That's a good question because today that top line, despite having a chance early on, it was like that breakaway connection between Matthews and Marner. Other than that, they kind of looked non-existent out there today. It was a truly a story of secondary scoring like from both teams. But yeah, what do you think is the issue with this top line? Because it's kind of had a couple different looks. We had Bertuzzi up there, we had Yarncroc out there, and now we're sitting with Mize. Do you think it's a personnel issue, or do you think it's just the guys are going through a little bit of slump?
Slump. I mean, I got to give him time. I think, especially. I mean, you still got Marner and Matthews up there. Like they're gonna do something. Like I mean, they are like let's give them the excuse. They are just off a European trip. They just were across the world. So maybe give them. I think maybe a little bit of time. Like I still like it. Like functionally, when we've seen them at their best, they've been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Like not too long ago. So maybe again, it's a long season, very very long season. So like I'd say give him a shot. Give him some time there. I wouldn't want to move Robertson from where he is right now because that's working.
Mm-hmm.
You don't rob Peter to pay Paul, as the older people say. It's an interesting quote. Or you know what I'm saying? Like you don't fill a hole by like creating another hole, right? Like so, I think keep it as it is for now. I think the fact that they only have 5 regulation wins is kind of concerning. I saw that in the comments right there. I'm like, oh, that's a stat. That's something.
Yeah, that's a good stat. That's a good stat.
That's a rough stat. I mean, but
Yeah.
keep it rolling, see what you got. But yeah, I think we've touched on everything here. It's a long, big, good game. A lot to talk about here. I mean,
Yeah. Well, let me get my quick thoughts on that top line real quick. Yeah, I kind of tend to agree with you. A lot of people in the chat are saying, hey, maybe throw Nylander up there in the top line, connect up Matthews and Nylander again. The problem I see with that is right now that second line is looking so damn good. I don't want to touch anything and like mix up some of the chemistry going on over there, right? And then the other problem is Yarncroc, who also has played or had some time on that top line. He's looking pretty good with Domi Robertson as well,
Yeah.
right? So if you want to try to get a line blender, trying to get something going just to fix the first line, you might mess up something good that's happened on the second line and the third line. So I actually agree with you. I think just you can't really touch it too much. If you want, you can have some plays, like maybe throw Nylander up for a couple plays, see how it works. Throw Marner down in that the second line, because I think the way that Marner and Nylander like contribute to their specific lines, they both can work pretty well or can work interchangeably. Because it really seems like Bert is just out there in front of the net, just being a nuisance, and then William Nylander and Tavares are able to just run around, make some plays, and go off of that. Marner and Tavares have had time playing together last season. They looked really good together, so maybe you could try it out. But don't go around like bring out the blender and try mixing a lot of the stuff up. We have some good things going with these lines. Let's not try to mess anything up with the lines that are working.
I changed my answer. Patrick Kane, that's what they need. Patrick Kane, put Patrick Kane on the top line.
Patrick Kane, oh jeez.
I just that's why I'm not. I mean, like it sounds like fun, but that's why I'm not an NHL coach because but it sounds like fun. I think you should do it.
Yeah, throw it on NHL on the video game and see how that works over there first.
Just for fun, just make it fun for us. I want to talk about it. Like do it for the vibes, for the content,
for the vibes. Well, I think that's gonna do here from us. What I think that's all the questions that we have for today. We've been going on for a while too, but if you guys have stuck around, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate each and every one of you guys. If there's any Americans out there, happy Thanksgiving. We love you guys down south. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. It's an early game. We're done today before 6 o'clock, which is a surprise. Usually games start after this, right?
I'm discombobulated. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Well, my name's Harnish. You can find me at Harnish_Patel on Twitter. And Fouad, tell them where they can find you.
And it's Fouad Suleiman. You can find me at Fouad_sports on the Twitter. And yeah, man, you can find me on STPN on Game Over Toronto. That's where you can find me too.
There you go. We'll see you guys tomorrow with the Leafs play back-to-back against the Penguins. Hopefully they can get a W this time. Good night, everyone.
Peace.